Hello and welcome to the Global Travel Channel podcast show. I am your host Mark Philpott and it's great to have you with me today. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. It's always great to have you here with us. Hope you're enjoying the continuation of all the amazing episodes. And if you're a first timer, welcome. It's great to have you here as well. Did you come because you have somebody you know on the show? Or did you stumble across us somehow online? I'd love to know. Drop me a note on social media and let us know how you found the show. Now, on the show, I interview people all across the world about their incredible travel experiences. And just because we happen to have a short-term travel lockdown around the world, it doesn't mean that we can't talk about travel, we can't inspire people to travel, and we can't motivate people to go and change their lives through travel. So that's what we intend to do on the show. And today's guest is somebody that's going to inspire us, I'm sure, to visit the beautiful country of Mexico. Oh yeah, Mexico. Have you been to Mexico? Why not? Is it on your bucket list perhaps? Well, today I'm going to be talking to a lady who was born in Mexico, and she had some amazing role models in her life that got her into travel at a very young age, and she's very passionate about her own country. So today she spends her time traveling around Mexico, writing a travel blog and bringing us all up to date with what Mexico has to offer. So if you love Mexican food, if you love laying on a beach and relaxing, if you like culture and history and art, then Mexico is definitely a place you should have on your bucket list. So let's introduce my guest today. Her name is Luisa Gonzalez. Luisa, welcome to the Global Travel Channel podcast show.
Hello, Mark. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy that you're here with us today. And how are you today?
I'm really good. Quarantine time, but I'm really good. And how about you?
I'm fantastic. I'm always happy to do podcasts with people and talking to people all over the world about travel. It's one of my favorite things to do. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Now, whereabouts in the world are you talking to us from today?
I'm in Cancun, Mexico right now. Not at the beach, at home, but I'm in Cancun.
So beautiful Cancun. We're going to talk about your wonderful country in a lot more detail today. And we're also going to find out a lot more about you. So before we do that, though, I always offer my guests the opportunity to dedicate their show to someone special in their life. So who would you like to dedicate your show to today?
I want to dedicate this show to my mom.
Okay, great. And what's your mum's name?
My mom's name is Pita.
Pita, okay.
Yes, and actually yesterday was her birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Pita. Maybe we should sing her a little song, huh?
You can do that, yeah. Maybe, yeah, you can do that.
And does your mum live in Cancun or is she somewhere else in Mexico?
Oh, she lives here in Cancun too.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so at least you got to wish her a happy birthday yesterday.
Yes, in quarantine, no hugs, nothing. Just happy birthday, Mom, and that's it. We can celebrate later.
Fantastic. Now, podcast. Are you somebody that listens to a lot of podcasts? Are you, one of these people that pulls out your headphones every day and switches onto a podcast somewhere?
Actually, not so much. Only one here from Mexico, and now yours. So, but now this during the quarantine, I'm finding more podcasts to listen because it's the way we can travel now, or I don't know, entertain us. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And I was mentioning to some people the other day that since this situation has occurred around the world, that my numbers on people listening to the podcast have gone up significantly. So it is true. I think more and more people are starting to find the world of podcasts, which is a great thing. Now, Mexico, were you born in Mexico? Whereabouts were you born in Mexico?
I was born in Mexico City.
Mexico City, right.
Yes, the crazy, biggest and beautiful Mexico City.
Was it Was it a stressful city to grow up in as a young child? Was it full of people and busy all the time?
It wasn't for me because that's the only thing I know at that point. So it was normal to grow up in a big city. But yes, of course, it's a lot of traffic and people, and the subway is full of people every day. But for me, that was normal when I was a child.
What did you love the most about Mexico City as a young person?
The museums
Mm.
and the architecture, because my mom and my grandparents used to take me to museums on weekends all the time, and there are a lot of museums in Mexico City, so it's you need a life to go to all the museums, and that's that's the most beautiful thing in Mexico City.
That's wonderful that they did that with you, taking you to all the museums. That must have been a very rich learning experience for you.
Yes, it definitely it was because when I remember the first museums we visited, I think I was 2 years old or 3 years old, and it was all kind of museums, all kind, history. I don't know, only paints or any kind of museums. And my favorite is the Frida Kahlo Museum, that is
Mm-hmm.
her house and museum. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember maybe I was 3 years old when I visited the first time. It was a shock.
Mm.
It became my favorite museum, and it is. It's my favorite museum in Mexico City. And I have wonderful memories of all the museums, but that one is it's fantastic because it's a mix of her art and her life and everything around Frida Kahlo.
What attracts you the most to museums?
Um, it depends. It could be a sculpture. It could be the building itself, or I don't know. It's amazing because it's so different. Every museum is different to the other one, and you can learn a lot about the past, not only from Mexico but from the world in a
Mm.
museum. So you
Mm.
can see the history of that place, the history of the artist, and that is amazing.
So, when you went to these museums when you were a young girl, did you have the appetite and desire to want to travel the world and visit a lot of these places that you were learning about?
Oh yeah, yes. My traveling love started uh, when I was a little girl. Definitely, definitely. My mom and my grandparents used to do road trips almost every weekend. It was
Mm.
road trips or museums. So yeah, I discovered a lot of wonderful places and towns when I was a kid. So yeah, I think it started when I was a kid. I wanted to travel everywhere and discover new cultures, food, people, everything.
So, when you used to do these road trips, where were some of the places that you visited?
We used to visit towns, small towns near Mexico City, or a little farther if we have more days. Uh, Sometimes we took 15 days to discover uh, one state and visit different towns and cities in that state. Or sometimes it's just a road trip in in one day near to Mexico City to visit one or two towns and enjoy the food in that place, see the crafts there, and yeah, to learn more about our country.
I bet you were excited to get into the car and take off on another new adventure. Was that something you always look forward to?
Uh, Sometimes yes, but honestly, sometimes it was like another road trip. Okay, okay, that's fine. And when I am in the place, walking around, it was so excited again. But when I when they decided to visit a new place, it's like, oh, again. So yeah, I was so young, and it's like, can we stay at home today and I don't know, play something? But I lived with three adults my whole life, so um, we play board games or things like that, but it was a different childhood. I don't have any brothers or sisters, so I grew up with three adults, so they made my life uh, better, of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
but they do different things. We don't play or watch TV like regular kids, I think.
Right.
It was different.
So you had an overdose of road trips.
Yeah, yes, I did. Yes.
Now, your grandfather was another inspiration for you when it came to travel. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your grandfather?
Okay, yeah, he was an aeronautical engineer,
Mm.
so he supervised airports in Mexico City. So it was a big deal for me. It was so exciting to see um, the airports and the airplanes and everything around traveling. It was so exciting because I saw what he do, and it was, I don't know, something not normal for most of the parents. So it was a big influence in my life to see that, to see airplanes close,
Mm. Mm.
you see it, you see the big airplane, and I don't know, it was for me like, that's my dream. That's my
S-
dream.
So did he take you on the tarmac and up close and personal with the aircraft?
Yes, yes, several times. I joined him to work, and he showed me the airports, the airplanes, or everything related to that, because he know that I was really attracted to that.
Mm. That must have been fantastic. I've always said that grandparents are just the coolest of all of our connections in our life. I really believe that because they have so much love to share, and they want to teach us so much when we're young as well.
Yes, that's true. You can learn a lot from your parents, of course, but the grandparents are a big, big influence in the life, because they give you the love, but also wonderful experiences, because they love you in a different way than your parents, because they don't have to uh, it's not their job to make you a good person, just it's their job to love you. I think that's why it's so different.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you still have your grandparents in your life today?
No, well, my grandmother, yes, she is almost 95.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know. And she also lives here in Cancun. And my grandpa died when I was 17 years old.
Oh, okay, okay. So I think we're all going to want to move to Cancun after this podcast because we're going to be able to live forever and enjoy life a lot. Huh?
Yes, I think if you live here in Cancun, you're gonna live forever, I think.
Now, when you were a child, you had a dream related to doing a job that was involving travel. Tell us about that and how you got into that.
Yes, when I was maybe 8 years old, I think I decided I want to be a flight attendant.
Mm.
And that was the dream. Nothing else happens in my life that changed that. Uh, I finished the elementary school, then started high school, and that was the point. I want to be a flight attendant. So yes, when I finished high school, I went to an airline to ask for a job,
Mm.
and it was successful, and I
Well,
started the trainer. So I started when I was 19 years old. I became a flight attendant.
so was this dream inspired by your grandfather and the time that you spent around aircraft? Was it something that was related to that?
Yes, I think it was a mix of his job, a mix of, I don't know, my own personality, that I really want to see the world, and I want to see it all. I want to see all the countries and all the cultures and the religions, everything. So I think it was a mix between his influence and my personality.
You must be a Gemini, are you?
Yes, I am. Absolutely. Yeah.
There we are. It's quite easy to guess a Gemini, and when they talk about travel and love of flying. So tell us, how long did it take you to go through the training to be a flight attendant?
It's only 3 months. It's really, really fast. It's
Wow.
really, really crazy. You have to memorize a lot of things. You have to pass all the exams. You have to work really hard. You have to stay every day for several hours in class, and then go to your home and study a lot. And then it's a lot of exams every 2 days or 3 days, and physical exams and everything. And in 3 months, I was ready.
Wow, that's incredible. I was expecting you to say something like at least 1 year of training, at least before you become a flight attendant, but 3 months, you're done.
Yeah, it was really, really fast. Only 3 months, and you learn like a big, big, big manual. It's like, wow, how can I learn that so fast? It's amazing. And yeah, it's really, really fast, and you have to learn all and memorize all and understand, because that's the best part of that you have to understand uh, what you should do depending on what is going on up there.
Obviously, Mexicans are very intelligent people as well as living very long ages. So I'm starting to see a theme here that's developing with Mexican people. So after the 3 months, you were immediately put on duty and you started flying.
Yes, it was only like three flights of training with another flight attendant, and after those flights, you're ready and you're on your own. And actually, I started in a small airline here in Mexico,
Yeah.
and the aircrafts are small, an ATR aircrafts, and they only have a place for 50 passengers. So I don't know if that's the same everywhere in the world, but here in Mexico, it should be one flight attendant for every 50 passengers. So I was the only flight attendant in the aircraft. So
Oh,
I
oh
was
wow.
19 years old, alone in an aircraft. So it was crazy.
So where was your first flight from and to? Where did you go to?
It was Mexico City, Durango.
Durango. Okay. So
Yeah.
how long was that flight? Not too long,
Uh,
really, was it?
no, I think 2 hours maybe.
Yeah, 2 hours.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And how was it? Do you remember that day very clearly? Like, were you very nervous? Did anything outstanding happen on the flight that you remember, or how was the overall experience for you?
It was crazy. Yes, it was crazy. I was I was extremely nervous. I don't know. I feel like a child there, and the pilot close to me, and he said, "You're the new flight attendant." Yes, I am. You're a kid. He said, "Yeah, I am a kid, maybe, but I'm ready. I'm ready." And I was really, really, really nervous, uh, and all the passengers were seated in the airplane. The doors closed, and I was blank. I don't remember anything at all about the procedure and anything, but I remember everything important about safety.
Mm.
I never forgot about that, and I took a time, and I said, okay, I am sure and I'm secure to know all about security. So that's the big deal. I am a flight attendant because I am the security uh, person here. So maybe I don't remember what to say or where are the exits, or I don't know. I'm so nervous. But I know that if something happens, I'm ready. I'm ready for that. So that's what I remember of that first day.
So I'm really interested to know, when you got up to do the safety presentation, were you all red in the face and nervous and embarrassed, or how was it?
Yeah, I was really nervous, and I was in front of all the passengers, and I was like, everybody's looking at me like, oh, are you 15 years old? Why you're playing with your dolls or something like that? It was so funny because it was full of businessmen,
Yeah.
that and it was crazy. Yeah, everybody was looking at me like, this is a joke, right? You're not a flight attendant, right? This is really a joke. Where's the camera, or something? It was really hilarious because, no, I don't know. It was crazy for them and it was crazy for me. So it was fantastic.
I can't believe the pilot said what he said to you. That must have given you, like, you think the pilot would be giving you some motivation and inspiration, but saying what he said to you was just unbelievable. What did he say when you got to Durango? Did he make any more comments to you?
Yeah, he was really nice. He said, "How do you feel? How are you? How was the flight? Are you nervous, or do you feel better?" I said, "No, I'm feeling better." And they took me to my first dinner outside of in the job. So they were really nice to me that first flight. But I was really nervous. It was crazy.
So here's a little crazy fact for you. Today, listening to your show is somebody who works for ATR in France, and you flew on ATR aircraft. So what did you think of their planes?
Oh, my favorite planes.
Your favorite
It's
plane?
amazing. Yes, it's small and it sounds different, and it's, I don't know, yeah, my favorite plane. It's really nice and different, and the sound inside, it's I don't know, it's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
my favorite.
Okay, so that's very well responded to. I'm sure they'll be happy to hear that. You might even get an ambassadorship to ATR after this show.
Yeah, it could be that. That sounds really good.
So after you were doing the flight attendant job for some time, did you fall in love with flying? Did you really just connect with it and love the whole experience?
Yes, I worked for a few months in that company, that airline, and then I resigned and changed to another airline, a bigger airline, the biggest and the most important airline in Mexico at that time.
Hmm.
So it was a big change because at that point I started traveling international.
Mm.
So it was different to see another countries and another people, and as I said, different cultures, food, everything. So that makes me feel like, okay, I love this job, I really love it, but I want to experience the world on my own, not just working. It's not enough. I need more time, and I want to experience on my own. And I stayed there for maybe a year, and I resigned, and I decided to start traveling on my own, on my time, and to take really the time to explore cities and explore countries and do what I love, but not working.
Yeah. Where was your first international flight with the next airline to? Where did you go to?
San Francisco, and the next day Los Angeles.
Oh, fantastic. So that must have been a great trip.
Oh yeah, I'm never gonna forget that. It was an amazing experience. It was my first international trip, not only working but in life. So it was an amazing moment. I had a wonderful experience, and I explored Hollywood and everything. It was crazy with my camera like a tourist. So it was a wonderful trip.
But flying into San Francisco also is one of the best airports in the world, I think, to fly into because it's such a beautiful approach. Well, depending on what way you come in, but if you're coming over the San Mateo Bridge and in that way, it's such a beautiful outlook on the city, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's definitely a city that you look from above and it's like, wow, this is so beautiful. And there are a lot of wonderful cities that you see,
Yeah.
right, from above, and it's, wow, it looks amazing, like a puzzle or something.
Actually, that's one thing I really love about traveling, and we probably don't talk about it a lot, is when we're flying to a place, our first impression often is looking down out of the window of the aircraft at the city below or the landscape below of where we're about to arrive to. And I think it's something that goes unnoticed a lot when we travel because we're so, I guess, impatient wanting to get on the ground and to explore the cities and the countryside of where we're landed. But I think it gives us another perspective, doesn't it, looking out of an aircraft?
Yes, yes, absolutely. My experience maybe is different because I love to stay in the airplane. I'm
Right,
not in a hurry to get down.
right.
So if you said, okay, it's 11 hours flight, no, that's perfect for me. It's okay. I can stay here for a week. So that's okay. So yeah, the view from above to the different cities, it's something that not everybody enjoy, right?
Mm, mm,
It's so different to go to Las Vegas, for example, to London, to San Francisco, as you said, Bogota, something like that. It's so different, and you have to see it because that's where the experience starts.
So when you were flying internationally, you would have had a lot more than 50 people on your aircraft. So how was that experience when you started to have more and more passengers to deal with?
Oh, that's piece of cake. Because yeah, we were four flight attendants on every flight, so it was like, oh my god, this is so easy for me. It was, yeah, it was so different. Uh, as I was 22 when I moved to the other airline, but still young, but not that young. So no, yeah, it was so easy to make it because I don't feel alone in the aircraft.
Right. So tell me, I've always been interested to talk to somebody that's been a flight attendant about the way that they sum up passengers and you kind of check out people when they come on board and determine whether you think they're going to be trouble or not. Is that something that's pretty pronounced across the whole industry? Do you kind of look at passengers and think, okay, I think you're going to be a bit of trouble or whatever during the flight?
Yes, yes, that is a big deal. Yeah, it is. It is actually. Yeah, when they are crossing the door, you said, okay, you're fine. Okay, you maybe are gonna make some trouble. Okay, you're fine. Yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah, it's yeah, it is. It is. But it is something funny because sometimes it's a different experience. You see someone that it's maybe uh, with a face like we see different things, right? Maybe it looks mad, and maybe he's just worried. So if you go and said, "Are you okay?" Maybe he just needs an approach with someone, and that makes a big difference.
Yeah, right, right. So, like a true Gemini, you got to the stage where you didn't want to be part of the airline industry anymore. You wanted to travel alone. So, how did that transition happen for you? What was the decision-making process behind that?
Um, it was a very difficult decision because I was really happy being a flight attendant and traveling to new places and new countries, but it was my dream was bigger than that. So I decided, okay, no, I have to quit and I have to start doing on my own, not working related, only on my time. If I can do one trip every year, that's okay. That's okay. I need more, of course, but if I can do only one, that's good. I can work anywhere and make money, save money to that, and that was the dream at that point.
Mm. So, how was the decision made in terms of quitting the airline? Is it something that you pondered over for some time, or did you just make a quick decision to get out?
A quick decision. Yeah, it was really quick. Maybe I think for a week, and I decided.
Okay.
It was really quick. Yeah, my decisions are always quick.
Always quick. Okay. So is that when you started your travel blog? Was immediately after you finished working in the airline, or how did that come about?
No, my blog I just started 2 years ago,
Okay.
a little more than 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it took time. I decided to quit from the airline, and then maybe 2 years after that or 3 years after that, we moved from Mexico City to Manzanillo, Colima.
Mm-hmm.
That is a beach, a beautiful beach,
Yep.
a small city in Colima, Mexico.
Yep.
And it was a big change because it was enough with the big city. I love Mexico City. It's so beautiful. But at that point, it was too much.
Mm. What did you miss about Mexico City after you moved?
My friends, and as I said, the museums and the food, all the restaurants that you can have access to. But it was a big decision and a big change and a wonderful change because we moved to a small city with a beach. It changed everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
So is that a typical thing in Mexico at the moment? Are people looking at getting away from the big cities and the stress of life to have a more, I guess, relaxed lifestyle? Is that something that's becoming a trend?
I don't think so. I think more people are trying to go to the big city. It is crazy. A few people, yes, get outside the Mexico City, but it's more that people outside go to Mexico City to live there.
Right. Okay. So let's start talking about your travel blog, because I have a lot of listeners today who perhaps haven't been to Mexico yet, and one of the many exciting reasons I wanted to have you on the show was not just to talk about being a flight attendant, but also to talk about your wonderful country and what it has to offer for travelers from all over the world. So tell us about what was the inspiration to start a travel blog.
Well, we lived at that point in Manzanillo, as I said, and then I decided that I want to move to another place here in Mexico that is amazing. That is Cancun. And we moved here, and I started to think I want to share with the world my beautiful country. I want to share Mexico, but not only the tourist places. Not only that. I want to share the culture, the folklore, the food, the towns, the cities, the traditions, everything. So it was a big deal for me to understand how to do that. So I decided that the best for me it was to start a blog and write about the places that I love. As I said, not only the tourist places, but outside that, the magic towns here in Mexico, the traditions, and everything about Mexico, but for people outside Mexico, from the world.
Yeah. How did you go about learning to start a blog? Had you been somebody that was already reading other people's travel blogs, or so how did you get to grips with the actual technical side of learning to do a blog?
Wow, that's a good question because I started without anything, any information, not a group, not anything about that. I have no idea what WordPress was, nothing at all. I just decided that I want to do that, and I think about the name and the structure that I want, how that I want to write, everything, and then I start learning about how to make a blog.
Okay. So you had the passion that you wanted to get the story of Mexico out there to the world, and you knew how you were going to go about it, but you needed to learn the technical aspects of putting it all together in a blog structure. How long did it take you to learn that technical side of actually, managing a blog and being able to post articles and things like that?
I think I continue learning,
Of course.
but yeah, but maybe 4 months.
4 months.
I started my blog or the idea in October,
Yep.
and I wrote my first post in January.
Okay. Well, that's very good. Very good. Yeah, indeed. So, what was the first post about? What did you write about for the very first time on your blog?
Okay, my very first post was Tepoztlan, that is a magic town near to Mexico City, and it's my mom's favorite magic town. So it was something special to write for her.
Oh, that's beautiful. And we're going to include the link to your blog in the show notes of the podcast today. So why don't you tell everybody the name of your blog and what made you choose that particular name?
Um, I chose that name because I want a word that I made, that I create or something, and it's a Mexico, and it's the mix between amazing and Mexico.
Yeah, I love
So
that. That's fantastic.
yeah, I made a mix, and it's a Mexico.
A Mexico. Yeah, that's brilliant. So, as I say, everybody listening today, we're going to include the links to Luisa's social media sites and her website, so you can go and check out her blog. But it's called A Mexico, Amazing Mexico. So, once you got into the whole blogging environment, what was your aim in terms of how frequently you were going to travel? Where were you going to go to? How you were going to select the places that you went to? What were some of the things going through your mind there?
I started thinking that I want to visit new places, at least two every month. I'm trying to visit two places or new places for my blog every month. Some of them I already visited a few years ago, but I am trying to visit new states, new towns, or anything new for my blog. Something that attracts me. Not, I think a lot of places are well known, like Tulum or Cancun, Playa del Carmen, Puerto Vallarta. I don't know, Tequila, Mexico City. But I want to share not only those places, but so places that maybe nobody knows about it, except if you are from Mexico.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So let's get into some of the tips then for people listening today who might be planning a visit to Mexico. First of all, what time of the year is the best time to come to Mexico, would you say?
I think any time of the year it's good because we don't have too much cold here, so it's good in weather aspects. It's any time of the year it's good, but there is less touristic if you avoid, of course, Christmas, New Year, Easter, um, maybe the summertime. But outside that, it's perfect on every time.
Okay. So what about when someone's coming there for the first time? Where would be the best place for them to start their journey of Mexico? What city would you recommend people to fly into and have their first experience in Mexico?
Okay, that depends. I have that question almost every week. uh, that depends really on the person, because if you want to go and visit Mexico for the first time and you want to see the beach, uh, here the Riviera Maya, the Mexican Caribbean is the perfect option. But if you want to visit a city, a colonial city, or a town, that changed the idea, because maybe you have to go to Zacatecas or San Miguel de Allende or Oaxaca. So I always ask the people, what do you want to see? Do you want to see the beach, underground rivers, archaeological sites, or do you want to see small cities, colonial cities or towns? What do you want to see? Because that makes a big difference.
Yeah, and the thing that I love about Mexico is that it's so diverse in the types of different holidays that you can have in this country, and you've already mentioned there the different experiences that people can have, and I guess combining a lot of those, if people just don't want to come and just lay on a beach for their entire vacation, they can come and do lots of different things across Mexico because that's the kind of country that it is.
Yes, that's true. Because if you want to relax at the beach, okay, you can visit here the Mexican Caribbean, but also you can visit an archaeological site here and cenote and underground rivers and ecological parks, uh, magic towns. So it's this a lot of ideas and options in only one place. So you can enjoy the beach, but the ruins and everything in just one trip.
Mm. So, if someone is coming to enjoy the beach environment of Mexico, when I talked before about the best time of the year to come, there's obviously also a time where there's maybe lesser tourists than there are at different times of the year. So, I'm thinking that you have a lot of American tourists coming to Mexico for that beach environment. They come at a specific time of the year, I guess, versus other times of the year. So, what would be the best time to come to experience the beach life of Mexico?
Uh, for me, I think January to March is the best time
Mm.
because it's cold almost everywhere else. So here is warm and perfect, and you can enjoy around 27, 28 degrees. So it's warm, it's perfect, it's not crowded. So I think yes, January to March is a perfect season to visit Mexico, especially in a beach.
Okay, so January through March. Now, give us your top three beach locations for a holiday in Mexico. What are they?
Um, okay, Los Cabos could be one.
Yep.
Um, Here in the Mexican Caribbean, it's Cancun, Tulum, Playa del Carmen are my favorites, Isla Mujeres, and in the Pacific also Puerto Vallarta is beautiful.
Yeah, Puerto Vallarta is absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. Really is. I could live there. I'd love to live there, actually. It's a beautiful place.
Yes, it is. It is a beautiful, beautiful place. And how about the sunsets?
Yes.
Every day is a new magical sunset, right?
Yeah. I used to work for DHL for many years, and I was in San Francisco one time on a business trip, and my work colleague said, "You've got to go to Puerto Vallarta." I said, "Where's that? I don't even know where that is." And she said to me, "Come on, you can come with my husband and I this weekend. We're going to go down there and spend 4 or 5 days." And I tell you what, I've been to a lot of places around the world, and this place really was something magical that I just really, really love. So, yeah, definitely put that on your list of beach places to go in Mexico. Now, let's talk about the cost of getting around in Mexico from a domestic traveling point of view. Is it cheap to get around, and what is the best way to get around inside Mexico?
Yes, I think it's cheap to get around here in Mexico. It's not expensive at all, except maybe for Tulum. Tulum it's a expensive place.
Mm.
But outside that, yeah, it is cheap to move around here. And I think the best way to move around Mexico is on a bus. If you want, you can rent a car, that's okay, but you don't need it. You can take the bus here in Mexico anywhere, and it's cheap and it's really easy to move.
Mm. Okay, that's interesting. And what about safety? Is it safe to get on a bus and move around Mexico?
Yes, it is. It is safe almost everywhere. I'll say I move in bus all the time. I don't use the car so much when I'm traveling. I use the bus almost every time, and it's really safe. Maybe there are a few places or states that maybe you have to be a little bit more careful, especially if you're traveling at night, maybe. But on the touristic places and cities, it's okay to take the bus. It's really safe.
Okay. So to give people an idea of cost of traveling domestically, if I was to fly from Cancun over to the West Coast, what would a return ticket cost me to do that?
Um, well, it depends depends, but I think maybe around round trip $300 maybe.
$300 to go from one side of
Yes.
Mexico to the other. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's not that expensive. It could be less expensive, but in high season or something, it could be $300.
Okay. And are there lots of budget airline options? Is that available in Mexico now?
Yes, there are. Interjet and Volaris are not expensive at all, and you can find cheap flights there.
Okay. And would you recommend one of those in particular as being the better one?
Maybe Interjet, it's a little bit better. You don't expect something really nice, but it's not bad. It's not bad, and the price is really cheap. But yeah, you can choose between Interjet or Volaris. Are really good experiences, but yes, don't expect something really nice.
Okay. So if someone wants to come to Mexico and their taste, if you like, their experience is not all about the beach resorts and all the rest of it. They want to go off and they want to do a bit of hiking and they want to do historical stuff. What are some of your favorite destinations where people can go and do that inside of Mexico?
Wow, yes, that's a good idea too. I think you can go and fly to Mexico City and move from there because there are a lot of wonderful places. For go hiking, Tepoztlan is a wonderful, beautiful place to do it. And if you're looking for something historic, you can spend at least 1 week in Oaxaca.
Yep.
And it's going to be amazing because every city and town is different. The food is fantastic, and also the state of Guanajuato it's so beautiful and it's so diverse. So yeah, my idea is that if you want to experience different things, you can fly to Mexico City and move from there.
Right. So Mexico City is probably a good hub location to position yourself to go off and do all these kinds of different things, because let's face it, if you're coming from the other side of the world, then as far as flight connections go, Mexico City is one of the major hubs coming into the country anyway.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, it is easy unless you're flying to a specific place like here, like Cancun.
Yeah.
It's better to fly to Mexico City and move from there on a bus or take another flight, another connection to another place, like as you said, Puerto Vallarta or I don't know, Jalisco. You can visit Guadalajara and Tequila. So it's better to go to Mexico City and start from there.
Now let's talk about food, because one, I love talking about food, and more importantly, I love eating food, and I love Mexican food. I think I could eat Mexican food every day without fail. But there's people out there that might be saying, well, I'm not too keen on Mexican food. So when I go to Mexico, is there a lot of other options for me as far as cuisine goes?
Yes, it is. Yeah, we have a big selection of different food, and you can find here, yes, not only Mexican food. You can find Italian food, Indian food, French cuisine, everything. It's especially in Mexico City. It's a big, enormous options there. Or street food also. Yes, is if you don't want to stay only in Mexican food, you can try a lot of new ideas or some mix between, I don't know, the French and Mexican food. There are a lot of places like that.
What's the most popular cuisine outside of the Mexican food for local people? What do they tend to go and eat when they're not eating Mexican traditional food?
I think Italian. I think Italian is the most famous. If you're not eating Mexican food, I think Italian is really popular here.
Yeah. So what does a normal family eat for dinner in Mexico?
Wow. Tacos,
Tacos.
of course. Yeah, quesadillas, pozole.
Yeah.
I made pozole every month.
Yeah.
So, yeah, tacos, quesadillas, pozole. It's we live with that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's nothing wrong with that. And what time of the day do Mexicans usually eat their dinner?
Wow, really late.
Mm.
Really, really late.
Mhm.
Between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m.
Mm.
Really late.
Mm. So it's very much like the Spanish in terms of, you go to Spain for the first time, and I've listened to a lot of people tell me about their first experiences in Spain where they get to have a siesta in the afternoon and then they get to eat very late at night, and it kind of it makes some people uncomfortable because they're just not used to eating that late in the day, and that's why I asked you in terms of what is the traditional time of eating in Mexico, but it's very much similar to Spain, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is very similar. We don't take naps. We don't do that. Maybe in a few towns, but it's not normal here in Mexico to take naps. But yeah, we take breakfast really early, then like a snack in the around 12, and then the lunch is at 3 p.m. or something, and then dinner really late.
Right. And if you're eating dinner late, does that mean you're going to bed a lot later, or how does that work as far as the body clock goes?
Oh, yeah, Mexicans, you have a big, big dinner and you go to bed. It's like, that's normal. That's normal for us. Yeah, you take a big plate of pozole and then you go to bed. That's not a big deal here. That's real.
Okay, well, I'm not going to be judgmental and say how bad that is for everybody, but I'm sure everybody's thinking that anyway.
I
Yeah.
know. That's for sure.
Okay, so lots of different cuisines available in Mexico. So if you don't like Mexican food, then you're going to have access to lots of other cuisines, particularly Italian, French, and all of the others that you would get in normal tourist places around the world. Now, in terms of coming to Mexico on a holiday, you mentioned before about the climate. So what would be some of the first things that you would put into your suitcase if you were coming to Mexico as a tourist?
Sunblock.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's important.
Yep.
And wow, maybe a light sweater because it changes. In the day could be hot, and maybe at night it's a little bit fresh. So don't take it too light.
Yeah.
Pack a light sweater, cardigan, um, and maybe an umbrella. Sometimes here rains in Mexico with no advice. Um,
Do you
but
have a rainy season as such, or does the rain just come at any time of the year?
it's supposed to be from, I don't know, maybe May to September, but it rains sometimes in December or January. Not big deal, but yes, we have.
Okay. And it doesn't really get very cold, does it? So unless you're in the mountains or that, but I would advise tourists to take one kind of sweater or jacket or whatever. Yeah?
Yeah, in the beach or something like that, it's perfect. You don't need anything else. Yes, if you're on the mountains or at the north of the country, you can see snow actually. But if you're at the beach, it's going to be warm for everybody. Yes.
Do you have any snow ski resorts in Mexico?
No, we don't. We have one, I think, in Chihuahua. I'm not sure, but it's uh in during the winter it snows sometimes, and they have it like ready to use it. But no, that's the only one we have.
So where does everybody go to when they want to go skiing from Mexico? They go to the United States and Canada, do they?
Yes, we have to go there.
Okay. So we've talked about food, we've talked about beach resorts, we've talked about going and getting some cultural experiences. What about festivals? Do you have, well, we know that you have some amazing festivals during the year. What would be your pick for the best festivals in Mexico each year?
Okay, I have two favorites. The first one is the Guelaguetza. That is a festival that happens in Oaxaca every year. It's the most colorful festival in Mexico, and they show their dresses and dances and everything. It's an international celebration actually,
Right.
and it's really amazing. And the other one is Day of the Dead, of course.
Yeah.
In Mexico, it's it's really a big deal. The Day of the Dead is a big celebration everywhere in the country, especially of course in Mexico City, but on every city and on every state is different. You're not gonna see the same celebration in one state to another. It's so different, so different. The tradition is different. The food that the people put in the altars is different. Uh, all the ceremony is different, and the visit to the cemeteries is different on every city, on every state. But it's my favorite. Day of the Dead is a really big deal here in Mexico.
When is it? What is the date?
It's in November.
November. Okay.
Yeah,
What day in November? Is it
it's
the same
one
day every year,
the
or
first and second of November
1st and 2nd of November every year?
every year. Yes.
Okay. So if you want to travel to Mexico, maybe that's a time of the year that you want to go to plan to be there for the Day of the Dead, because it is an extraordinary event. I actually haven't been in the country while it's been going on, but I've seen lots and lots of videos and posts about it, and it does look extraordinary. Tell us the history of that particular festival. Where did that come from, Luisa?
Okay, it's a celebration of death. We celebrate and we honor our deaths. It's not common everywhere in the world, but we celebrate and honor the people that is no longer with us anymore. And we prepare food for them. We make an altar for them. We put candles, and it's like a warm welcome for them to visit us that day and enjoy their favorite meals and stay with the family that day, and celebrate like that special day, the family and the friends reunited with us.
Right.
And it's we do it with a little of humor, but it's in a good way. It's uh, respectful, but an amazing tradition that honor and celebrate the life of the people that is no longer with us.
I think it's a fantastic concept, because often we look at dead as being, dying as such a dark and something we don't talk about a lot. It's something we don't share a lot in the community about. We're in difficult times right now where there's a lot of people passing away that are, being away from their loved ones and all the rest of it. So I think it's a fantastic way of highlighting actually life and what life means to so many people, and how we can celebrate that rather than looking at it as being a negative and dark period of the journey that we have on this earth.
Yeah, I know it is so different everywhere in the world, and it's for us, for Mexicans, is yeah like a beautiful tradition because we see it differently.
Yeah.
It's painful, of course. It's painful. It's not different in that way, but we really honor and remember and celebrate the people that is not with us, and we remember those moments that we pass together, their food, their favorite food, and everything. So it's really important, and the kids know about that. They talk about that. They understand maybe a little more about the death.
Fantastic. How long's the festival been going for? What's its historical timeline?
I think from of course many years, but it's from the colonial times. I think it's been in our country for many years, and every year it's making more important because we are sharing with the world more. And a few years ago it was like only that you can see in Mexico, and now I see that a lot of people in different countries are making something similar and with the same respect. It's not like making fun or anything, it's with the same respect, and you can see now that in different countries they are making that tradition, and it's becoming a little more worldwide.
Wonderful. Well, there you go. There's a reminder if you're traveling or you're planning on traveling to Mexico to visit the beautiful country. The beginning of November is a time where you can catch the Festival of the Dead and check it out, all out that Luis has been talking about. Now, getting back to your travel blog, what have you enjoyed the most about doing your travel blog since you started doing it?
What I enjoy more is writing and taking pictures, because it's like, from my side, I don't know, maybe I see the archaeological side, and it's majestic, it's big, it's beautiful, but I want to show my perspective, and I took the photos and all, and then I come home, take a look at the photos, and with that in mind, I start writing, like the pieces that I want to share with people, looking at the photos. So that is the biggest for me, to experience that first, go to a place, take the photos, and when I go back, I start writing because of what I remember and what I see in my photos.
Okay, beautiful. Now, for people listening today who have now been convinced that they need to buy an airline ticket when we can all travel again and come over and visit your beautiful country, what are the 3 places that you would recommend that they must see for their first time in Mexico?
I think Mexico City, of course. It's a place that you have to visit one time. Any place here in the Mexican Caribbean, anyone. You can choose the biggest ones or the small towns. And another colonial city or something, like, as I said, San Miguel de Allende or Zacatecas. Those are my 3 recommendations if you want to see different aspects of Mexico.
Fantastic. Okay, well, what we're going to do is, if you want to find out some of the places that Luisa has already been traveling to, you check out her blog site at Amazico, which is Amazing Mexico. I'm going to put the link in the show notes for you all today. Where are you off to next when we can all travel again? Whereabouts is your next destination going to be?
Okay, I was ready to go back to Tulum because I went several times, but never to take photos and tell the story about that. And so I was ready, and I have to cancel that. So that's the next destination when this is over and we are ready to travel again.
Fantastic. Well, something I'm going to start doing on my podcast show is I'm going to invite travel bloggers like you who are rushing around their country doing amazing work on promoting their country to actually come on the show when you're traveling to a particular destination to talk to my listeners about that particular destination. So if you would like to, we can do a series on Mexico, and every time you go around to a different place in Mexico, we can do a podcast show on that particular place, and you can tell all my listeners about all the good reasons to go to that particular place. Would you like to do that?
Yeah, I love to do that. That's a fantastic idea. Yes, I love to share more about particular places and specific things about every place and every little town or city or I don't know, celebration. Yes, of course, that's fantastic.
Beautiful. Well, listeners, we're going to have our new Queen of Mexico is Luisa Gonzalez. She's going to be joining us regularly on the podcast show here to talk about her wonderful country as and when she travels to around any destination. So if you're out there listening to this today and you want to know something about Mexico, get in touch with me, drop me a note, and I will make sure that Luisa talks about it next time that we have a podcast show together. If you've been to Mexico and you've got some comments you want to make or pass on, drop us a note as well and let us know what those comments are. And I'm sure that Luisa or myself can get back to you and give you any information if you're looking for it. Luisa, we've rushed through our time today. It's been really enjoyable talking to you and listening to your amazing travel journey from being a wonderful little young tacker doing road trips around Mexico, inspired by your grandfather, and then becoming a flight attendant. That's an amazing story. So thanks very much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Mark. It was a wonderful, wonderful adventure, and thank you so much.
Well, I look forward to the next time that we're able to talk about your beautiful country and give my listeners some more information about why they should travel to the beautiful country of Mexico. So until then, thanks for joining me on the Global Travel Channel podcast show, and stay well and healthy over there in beautiful Mexico.
Thank you so much. You too, stay safe, and we're going to travel again soon.
I have been joined today by Luisa Gonzalez, and at different times her neighbour's dog on the show. We were talking about beautiful Mexico, so if you've been sitting on the fence and you haven't decided if Mexico is a place you want to visit, well, I'm sure it is now after Luisa told us about some of the interesting places that you can go and some of the amazing things you can experience in her beautiful country. And it was also great to hear about her journey becoming a travel blogger after being a flight attendant, and the inspiration that she got from her grandfather about the aeronautical world in particular. Luisa, it was wonderful having you on the show. Thank you very much for joining me, and I look forward to us doing another show when you get up and start traveling around Mexico again. Now, if you're looking for more episodes from the Global Travel Channel podcast show, it's very easy to get your hands on them. All you have to do is go to our website, www.globaltravelchannel.com. It's as easy as that. You'll find over 100 episodes of people that I've spoken to all over the world about all kinds of amazing travel experiences. Now, if you want to download those podcasts and listen to them at a later time, you can do so by going to the normal places. And if you're not familiar what the normal places are for podcasts, you go to places like Apple iTunes under the podcast section. You go to places like Spotify, like Stitcher, like iHeartRadio, like Google Play, like Castbox. And there's a host of other places where you can actually download the podcast from. Now, to make it easier, those links are all put on our website, so you can go straight there and download them from there. We also have a Patreon page. Now, this is a site where you can actually contribute to the sustainability of this podcast show. This is my full-time gig. I have no other forms of income or payment coming into the show. I love doing it. I love talking to people all over the world about their travel experiences, and I want to keep this going as long as I possibly can. So if you're into that and you want to go over to the Patreon page to check out how you can contribute, it's all there in black and white, and I would be very grateful and appreciative of that. Okay, well, during these difficult times, I'm going to be trying to put out as many podcast episodes that I can, so that you can binge listen to podcasts as you're sitting at home and doing the things that we should all be doing in terms of quarantining ourselves away from the rest of the world at this point in time. Okay, well, that's it for this particular episode. My name is Mark Philpott, and until we meet again, stay safe and stay happy.